This is coming to you from John Wayne's 26 Bar Ranch in Eager, Arizona.
Young, they were killers on the run. The gunfighters held the land in fear. No respect for the law, and with their lightning draw, the gunfighters' fame spread far and near. Gunfighters, gunfighters, death's dog-eat fight. Gunfighters, gunfighters, giving the devil one more try. When they rode into a town, men would try to gun them down, but the gunfighters' hand was prepared. They survived by their speed, killing first became their creed. The gunfighters' code was holsters bare. Gunfighters, gunfighters, death's dog-eat fight. Gunfighters, gunfighters, giving the devil one more try. They would gamble with their lives when they did their deadly dance, never knowing what lady luck would deal them next. Taking each day as it comes, facing death with a gun, not knowing that their luck would soon run out. Gunfighters, gunfighters, death's dog-eat fight. Gunfighters, gunfighters, giving the devil one more try. Gunfighters, gunfighters, death's dog-eat fight. Gunfighters, gunfighters, giving the devil one more try. Giving the devil one more try.
Bill Longley was born in 1851 in Austin County, Texas. He was 14 when he killed his first man. After many months of practice, he turned into a very proficient gunman. Bill hated the free Negro. One night he rode hell-bent through Lexington and shot down 8 black men, just plain ornery mean. He wore his gun strapped to his waist and tie thongs went around his legs, so you didn't have to wonder whether he was a killer or not. Bill had killed a cocky sergeant, and the federal marshal had a count against him and tried to write him down. Since Bill had been on the run many times before, he always stayed 1 or 2 steps in front of him. Bill lit out for Arkansas, and he put plenty of space between himself and the federal marshals. Sometime after Bill had fled the federal agents, he was camped outside of a small town. His campfire lured a bum by the name of Johnson. Really, he was a horse thief. Johnson had lost his horse a while back on the trail, and all he wanted right now was a cup of coffee and some food, if somebody could let him have some. Strangers. He motioned him to come on in. After he had eyed Johnson, he served him up some coffee. Johnson really wasn't looking for any trouble. All he wanted was a place to get a little bit of grub and some way to get on into town. Johnson had been walking all day, and he was just plumb tuckered out. Bill told him that after he broke camp, he'd help him get on into town. Bill and Johnson were spinning tales about the trail when they heard a noise in the brush. Bill grabbed his shotgun. 3 men rode up. Bill didn't know that there was a murder warrant against him, but he wasn't taking any chances. The marshal said, "Are you Longley?" He dismounted and asked him again, "Are you Longley?" Bill wasn't too sure that he was going to take on all 3 of them, even though he did have the shotgun. The marshal told him to put down his shotgun or he'd kill him right where he was at. Bill thought it over and put down his shotgun. Bill stood up. He figured there was too many of them. Johnson wondered what he had gotten himself into. The marshal and his deputies decided to hang him right then and there. Johnson was begging for his life. He didn't think he'd ever done anything to deserve this. Bill told him that he had to have a trial first. They couldn't hang him right now without a trial. The marshal said, "You've gotten away from us for the last time. We're going to hang you right here from this very tree." The marshal switched the horses out from underneath him. The 2 deputies rode off. The marshal took 1 shot before he rode away. The bullet struck the rope. Johnson strangled and died. Bill was very much alive. A few weeks later, after the bruises on his neck had healed, Bill happened into a nearby town, close to where the marshal had tried to hang him. The marshal had been bragging all over the county how he had hung Bill Longley from a big oak tree. This day he was telling his story again to a man at the bar, while the bartender watched and listened. How do you know that it was Bill Longley? Because he told me he was Bill Longley. We strung up him and his partner. Bill happened to go into the same bar. The bar was kind of dark, so he really didn't recognize the marshal at the end of the bar. All he wanted was a good drink. Bill heard the marshal talking about hanging this fellow from a big oak tree. Bill finally recognized him. He was furious. He had swore he'd get revenge. Bill took the hammer thongs off of his pistols. He drew both pistols. The marshal found himself looking into the twin barrels of eternity. The marshal was terrified. This man had come back from the dead. The bartender reached for his shotgun. Bill told him, "Don't try it again, or I'll kill you too." He told the marshal to lay his pistol on the bar. And told him to march. Bill led him to the same tree. While the marshal begged Bill not to hang him, he said he was only doing his job. Bill said he was going to do his job now. Longley took a dally on the horn and hung him to the same limb. Bill rode off, took one last look back at the marshal, and rode on.
When they rode into town, folks tried to gun them down, but the gunfighters always were prepared. They survived by their speed, killing first became the creed, but the gunfighters' code was holsters.
Howdy, partners. This is your old friend Chili Bill with my good buddies here, Juan Baracho and George Gabby Hayes Jr., who just took those falls for you a minute ago, telling you that no Hollywood magic is in this. Western know-how that makes Chili Bill's chili, the authentic, bring-you-back-to-life bowl of red made with lean beef and my own championship chili blend. A real palate pleaser. Why don't you give it a try? Well, let's see. I guess I better eat. Oh, there's only one bowl here?
Get your copy of If You Like It Hot today and start cooking up all those great foods of the Southwest.
His mere appearance at the end of the bar would put fear into everybody. Bill Longley was indeed a dedicated Texan. He heard a gambler at one of the gambling tables say that all Texans were horse thieves and their women prostitutes. He drew his pistols. He told the man, "You got two ways of leaving, standing up or laying down." The man went for his Derringer. Bill killed him. While he held his pistols on the crowd, Wild Bill Hickok, who was the marshal of Abilene, happened by and heard the gunshot. Longley rode out of Abilene when he heard that Wild Bill was outside. He knew that he wouldn't tolerate any shooting. Wild Bill continued to yell for the man with the gun to come out. Bill Longley was long gone. Not even Bill Longley wanted to face up to Wild Bill Hickok on his own territory. Bill often found money hard to come by, so he picked a fight with a wanted man. Bill let the man draw first and fire. The range was too great, and the man missed. Bill took a few steps forward and cut the man down. Longley collected $500 reward from the sheriff. He went to the Oxbow Mercantile on Main Street, and he intended to buy a new set of pistols. He had literally worn out his other set. The merchant explained to him that these were the newest and most reliable of the new Colts. In those days, one had to spin the gun, try the balance, cock it, flick the barrel, and again try the balance. Bill did this and went to the trouble to load the empty weapons. These were the newest of the Colts, and they took 6 cartridges to each weapon. Unlike the percussion weapons left over from the Civil War, he didn't have to load each chamber with a ball, a patch, and a percussion cap. Bill Longley was a heller for sure. He had an anti-Negro complex and took it out savagely with his 2 Colts and no church conscience. He saw a Negro sauntering down the street. In actuality, it was a notable gunfighter by the name of Blackjack. After making several racial slurs and obscenities, he asked the man if he was wearing that gun to scare the whites, or did he really know how to use it. Blackjack said he didn't want any trouble. All he was doing is going to the store. But he took the trouble to take off the hammer thong off his pistol. Bill knew that he had provoked a fight. He readied himself. Blackjack went for his pistol. Bill was faster, put 2 shots in his chest. He called the storekeeper over and casually told him that these were fine weapons and asked how much they were. Storekeeper said that the weapons were $25 apiece and $15 for the holster. Bill paid for them. The deputy sheriff, who was across the street, had heard the gunfire and came running. Pointing to the dead man, he tried to put Bill under arrest. Bill casually said, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to kill you too." While the deputy lay dying with 2 shots to the belly, Bill holstered his pistols. The U.S. government had a bounty on his head in Texas, so Bill drifted on down into Old Mexico. While in Old Mexico, he shot up 2 or 3 Mexican gunslingers. Finally, back in Texas in 1877, he made his fatal mistake by trying to avenge the death of a cousin by killing a man in public. This time the marshals were waiting for him. He was arrested immediately and taken to jail. That evening, a guard asked Longley, "How come you were never caught or killed in all those years on the road?" Longley said, "Because I never had any confidence in nobody." Bill was tried by Judge Parker, the hanging judge. It was a very short trial, and Bill was sentenced to hang. A disbeliever in tempering justice with mercy, Judge Parker sentenced a total of over 160 men to the gallows. Bill Longley was only 27 years of age in 1878, with 32 dead men to his credit. He smoked his last cigar and climbed to the gallows. Writing to a girlfriend, he said, "Hanging is my favorite way of dying." Flanked by lawmen, Bill Longley faced the prospect of a Texas noose for one of his 32 murders. He literally smiled at his executioners, who themselves were trembling. His hands were tied behind his back, and the noose was adjusted on his neck. The marshal asked him if he wanted the black hood. Longley said, "I don't need any hood. I want to see the good people that are going to hang me." He was asked if he had any final words. He surveyed the crowd of some 4,000 that had come to witness his drop through the trap and said, "I see a good many enemies around, but a mighty few friends." The trap was released. The rope slipped, and Bill landed cat-like on his feet. "This time hang the son of a bitch for good," the marshal cried. And this time they did. Bill was one of the few men to have the dubious honor of being hung 3 times. Bill died in exactly 11 minutes.
This was brought to you from John Wayne's 26 Bar Ranch in Eager, Arizona.